Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Ethical Cruise. So today I'm going to cover the second part of this AWS EC2 compute. This will be the second part. The first in this cloud computing series, I've already covered about like what is cloud computing, AWS overview. I've covered about what IAM are, different user groups, roles, permissions, and also in the previous section, in the previous video of EC2, we already discussed like how we can basically launch a EC2 instance. Okay, so in this part, there are some remaining topics related to EC2, and we will look into that. Okay, so let's start. So the first one is EC2 instance lifecycle. Okay, so if you noticed when we set up our EC2 instance in my previous video, then when we started it, then it basically we waited until it came to running state. Okay, because then only we were able to connect to this Apache web server. And EC2 instance transition through different state from the moment we launch it to the moment we either terminate it or stop it. Okay, so if you will see in this diagram below, like this is the initial AMI from which we are launching our EC2 instance. So this is just taken correlation with that Amazon Linux virtual AMI which we selected. So when we launching it, then it is going to this pending state first of all. Okay, so this is like an intermediate stage, and after that it will come to this running stage. Okay, this will be your running state, and your EC2 instance will be in a running state. And when EC2 instance is in running state, it will be considered as like it is a payable because it is running. Okay, if you are rebooting your EC2 instance, then it will go to this rebooting stage and will come again to running stage. Okay, there will not be any other intermediate step in case you are using EBS backed instances. Okay, we will discuss more in detail in the later videos, like what is EBS and all. For now, you can just focus on like when we are using this EBS storage, then if we are stopping our EC2 instance, then first of all, it will go to this intermediate step of stopping, then it will go to this stopped state. Okay, and after stopped, if we will run it again, then it will go to this if we will start it again, then again from stop state it will go to pending, and from pending it will again go to running. Okay, similarly when we are going to terminate this, uh, then it will go to first shutting down and it will go to then terminated. Okay, and if we go terminate from the stop, then directly from the stop state it will go to this terminate step. Okay, so this is life cycle which any EC2 instance will follow. Okay, so what we will do quickly, I will create an EC2 instance. I will set up an EC2 instance, and then we will notice the two of these states like this pending and running. Okay, okay, I am in this EC2 service, so I'm just go to this instances, launch instance, EC2 instance for demo. I'm selecting this pre-tie eligible AMI. For this instance type, I'm selecting this T2.micro. Key pair name, there is no key pair name as of now, so I'll create a new key pair name. I'm selecting this PM because I will be using SSH connection. It is downloaded. I'll just remove this. In the network setting, I'll just allow the SSH connection, and also I will allow this HTTP connection. In the configure storage, we will leave it as it is. In the advanced details, I'll just do a user setup. Okay, to launch our Apache web server. So that's the only thing which we will do. I'll just launch the instance, and you can see launch initiation and successfully initiated launch of instance. So what I'll do, I'll go back to this instances, and here you can see the instance state is pending. Okay, so when we are currently when we are launching it for the first time from the AMI, so the intermediate stage which is pending. Okay, now from pending it comes to running stage. Okay, let's go to our PPT. So here you can see that in intermediate stage was pending, and now it is running. Okay, now let's stop it and see what's the intermediate step. Okay, what I'll do, I'll select this instance. I'll select this instance state from here. I'll stop the instance. Okay, it will give me a confirmation message. I'll click on stop, and here you can see the intermediate step stopping, and now it is finally stopped. Okay, so in this manner, you can see that there are different life cycles which an EC2 instance will follow. Okay. Next is your security groups firewall. Okay, so we already know, like when we were setting up our EC2 instance, then we selected some SSH connection and we allowed HTTP connection also to be enabled into our EC2 instance. Okay, so the security groups are just like your firewall rules, and it controls the traffic that is allowed to reach and leave the resources. Okay, for example, the security group which we associated with the EC2 instance, it will control both inbound rule as well as outbound traffic rules. Okay, and similarly, this was for EC2, but similarly, we have a virtual private cloud, that is VPC, in place in AWS. Okay, it comes with its default security group. Okay, so when if we will opt for a VPC, then it will provide us a default VPC group, and we can also additionally create some security groups for each VPC. Okay, but we can associate a security group only with resources in VPC for which it is created. Okay, and also for each security group which we are creating, we can add, subtract, modify any rule on the basis of protocol. Like if you remember, for SSH the port number was 22 and the protocol was TCP. Okay, so on the basis of protocol as well as the port number, we can basically configure the inbound as well as the outbound traffic rules. Okay, and for inbound and outbound traffic rules, they will be separate traffic rules, because you can configure both rules differently. Okay, and how we can basically add, modify, delete security groups, you can also visit the AWS document official page. I will demo it for now how we can do it. So let's go to this security part. In this instance, you can see that this is one of the security group. Okay, so I'll just click on it, and you can see for the inbound rules, there were two inbound rules which we selected, like TCP22, TCP80 port. Okay, and similarly for outbound rules, you can see was IPv4 traffic is allowed for all protocol, all port range. Okay, let's suppose if we want to modify the inbound rule, so I'll just go to this edit inbound rule. I can either remove this SSH connection, or I maybe we can add some rule also. Okay, so let's suppose if we want to add uh, this HTTPS, and we know this HTTP connection is of protocol TCP type, and by default port number of it is 443. That's why these data are automatically pre-populated, and here we can just add the rules in this manner. Okay, so I'm not currently modifying it, so in this manner we will be able to modify this, and accordingly, if you want, you can basically delete any rule also. Okay, like this SSH rule is now deleted. Okay, similarly, if you want, you can basically add any new rule also from the security groups. From this securities, you can add the group, and if you want, you can basically delete that group also. Okay, next is connect to EC2 instance SSH by doing SSH connection. Okay, so SSH basically allows you to connect to your EC2 instance remotely, and you can control your EC2 instance remotely after making the connection. Okay, so if you are using the Mac or Linux machine, you can use an open SSH to basically connect your EC2 instance by SSH connection. And if you are on a Windows machine, so you can use a PuTTY software to basically connect to your EC2 instance. Okay, since I am on a Mac machine, so I will use the SSH connection, and we'll show you how we can connect to it. Okay, first of all, before connecting to EC2, we'll make sure that our machine is in running state. Okay, so first check the state of the EC2 instance. So here we can see that the instance state is stopped because we stopped this. So I'll start this. You can see this instance state is pending. In the meantime, you can play around it here as well. Okay, now you can see it is in running state. Okay, so now we'll go to terminal to check and to connect with this EC2 instance. Okay, before that also, we will be needing a public IP4 public IP to connect to this EC2 instance. So I'll just copy it. Okay, this will be the format which we will be using to connect to our EC2 instance. Okay, this is an SSH file form, SSH command format. So first is your SSH keyword, then your -i, then your file name of that key with your full extension. Then this EC2 dash user. This is a default username which is being assigned to EC2 instance at the time of setup. And then this is a public IP4 address which we copied from the EC2 instance. Okay, I'll just hit enter. Okay, so what it is giving is the when we downloaded this EC2 key pair file, we are having this permission of this 0644. Okay, but this private key file will be ignored Okay, because it is these permissions are too open. So what we have to do, we'll just have to make it more restrict this file. Okay, so for that, what I'll do, I'll use this chmod command. I'll do 400, then I'll do this EC2. Okay, that's done. Now I'll again run this command. And as you can see, I am now connected to this particular EC2 instance. So what I'll do, first of all, I'll do that who am I, to check who is the current user. Then maybe I can ping one of my website, and I can see I am getting this connection. Okay, so I'll just stop it. And this manner, we are basically connecting to our EC2 instance through SSH connection. Okay. Now, this is a second way, connect to EC2 instance using EC2 Connect. Okay, connecting to an EC2 instance by EC2 Connect is a lot much easier in comparison to SSH, as we do not have to maintain any RSA key, RSA private key locally. Okay, so as you saw in the last section, like when we try to do an SSH connection through a local terminal, then we had to set up some file, because we had to change the permission and all, and we have to maintain a local private key file as well, which will enable us to connect to EC2 instance. Okay, but what EC2 Connect provides, it provides us a browser-based connection method by which we can directly connect to our EC2 Connect instance. So it is much similar like Cloud Shell, uh, which we used in the previous video. So like Cloud Shell was a web-based method of connecting to any CLI. And similarly, this EC2 Connect will also be basically a browser-based method, and you do not have to do any further installation and all. Okay, what are the steps? So the steps are simple. We will open this console URL. In the navigation page, we'll choose instance. Then we will just connect, and then we will verify our username and choose connect option to terminal window. Okay, let's go to the management console and see how it is can be done. Okay, so now I'm at this connection page. I'll select this, and from here I'll select this connect. Once I'll come here, you will notice there are different options to connect to this EC2 instance. And you can see that we have an instance ID, we have a public IP address, we have a username also. So what we'll do, we will just click on connect. As you can see, it is EC2 instance connect. It is establish a connection, and it's done. It was so simple because we didn't have to enter any keys or anything. It is pre-authenticated. It is taking authentication, and then it is just establishing a connection and just giving us this EC2 instance connect. Okay, what I will do, I will again ping this, and as you can see, it is working. Okay, so this was the second method of connecting to this EC2 instances. Okay, first one was the SSH connection, second one this is EC2 Connect. You can use any of the method, but I'll prefer this EC2 because it is a lot more easier than that SSH connection. Okay. Next is your EC2 instance metadata. Okay, so whatever is EC2 instance which we are having, each instance is having some instance metadata. Okay, so metadata is stored basically data about your instance, and it can be used to configure and manage the running instance. Okay, we can access instance metadata from within the instance only. Okay, so we will not be able to access the metadata of the instance from outside the instance, but we will be able to access it within the instance only. Okay, also, one more thing to note here is that whatever data which we are accessing, it is not protected by authentication or cryptographic method. Okay, because whatever data we are using, it is just in plain text, and anyone who will be having direct access to this instance, and any potential software running on the instance will be able to see its metadata. Okay, so that's why we should not store any sensitive data such as password or long-lived encryption keys as user data. Okay, so how we can retrieve, next is how we can retrieve this EC2 instance metadata. Okay, to view all the categories of instance metadata from a running instance, what we could do, we have this particular URL. From for any instance, you can use this 169.254.169.254. This is in a static IP address, and for that, after that, you can just append latest, and then you can append metadata. Okay, so from this particular URL, you will be able to see all the metadata related to that particular instance. Okay, and one thing to note here is that all the instance metadata is written as text. That is, your HTTP content will be a type of text or plain. Okay, let's see in the EC2 Connect itself, what's how this metadata is being used. Okay, So you can see we hit a curl command http 169.254 169.254 latest metadata, and from this we are getting so many categories of data which we can see. Okay, let's suppose I want to see what's the host name. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just append the host name after that, and it will give me the host name. Okay, what suppose I want to see the AMI ID, want to see the profile. So it gives me the default HVM profile. So in this manner, you will be able to see whatever information related to that instance in the running instance. Okay. Now next come is EC2 instance user data. So similar to metadata, every instance is having a user data also. Okay. And if you remember, at the time of setup our EC2 instance, we provided some user data that enabled us to launch a Apache web server. So this instance can be bootstrapped using this EC2 user data only. Okay. And this user data can be passed to instance at the time of launch, and it is basically used to perform some common automatic configuration task, run the scripts and everything. Okay, and same as instance metadata, instance user data can be accessed from within the instance itself only. Okay, now how we can retrieve this EC2 instance user data, it is like a same, like we will use the same IP address 169.254 169.254, and for latest we will use this user data. Okay, there is a small typo here, it will be latest user data. Okay, let's go to web console back, and then I'll show you how we can access it. First of all, I'll clear out this console. First of all, I will clear out this console. Then instead of metadata, I just type this user data. And you can see this was the original script which I provided when I launched the EC2 instance. Okay, uh, this sudo yum update install start http enable httpd. So, okay, so this was the actual user data which I provided at the time of launch of instance. Next is assigning role to EC2 instance. Okay, so why do we need to assign to role to EC2 instance? So if you remember in my last video when we talked about IAM roles, okay, so role is nothing but just an identity, and that can be assumed by anyone. Okay, so what role helps us in providing the temporary credentials to an application to access AWS resources. Okay, so anyone who will be wearing this role head, they will be acting in term or acting on behalf of that role, and can do that particular thing which a role can able to do. Okay, because whatever permission we have given to role, any entity or any user who is assuming that role will be able to do the same thing as well. Okay, so how we will use it is EC2. So instead of storing the secrets and credentials in EC2 instance, we can add role in existing EC2 instance. Okay, and how we will do it, we can create a role, we can assign required permissions to that role, and then we can add that role to the existing EC2 instance. Okay, let's see how we can do it. Okay, first of all, let's see since we already know we do not have any role assigned to this particular EC2 instance, so let's see if we are able to list down all the users which are currently present or not. Okay, so it gave us this error like unable to locate credentials. You can configure credentials by running AWS configure. Okay, when we will do it, we do not have to do this activity on this EC2 instance, never. Okay, because in this manner we are storing the credentials in this EC2 instance, and anyone who will be having access to this EC2 instance, they will be able to access the any other things also. Okay, so what we will do, we will create a role, we'll assign that role to this EC2 instance, and then we'll again try to do that activity. Okay, let's go to these instances and select the instance. Under the actions, under the security, what I'll do, I'll click on this modify IAM rule. I'll see if there is an existing IAM rule which should be present. And yes, there is one EC2 IAM read only access for demo purpose, which we created into our last video. Okay, so I'll just select this particular IAM rule and we'll click on update IAM rule. Okay, I'll select this, I'll go to the security, and then I can see in the IAM rule, this role is already present now. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll again go back to this EC2 Instance Connect, and now we'll again run the same command. This time you can see I'm able to access this particular command. I am able to see all the users because we have assigned the role to this EC2 Connect instance, and that gives us the temporary credentials basically through which we are able to access this. Okay, now this particular role which we have assigned particular permissions also. Okay, let's see what permission we have provided. I'll click on this role. You can see in this role there is one permission, I am read only access. Okay, because we have already provided this I am read only access permission to this, that's why we were able to list down all the users present. Okay, so in this manner you can assign basically whatever role you want to assign to your EC2 instance, and then can access the AWS resources. Now we learned about we can assign the EC2 instance uh, role to EC2 instance. We learned about what is metadata, what is user data. Okay, and we also know that in the metadata, what metadata storage is just like is data about the instance data instance. Okay, so when we have assigned the role and all to everything, then it having some security credentials also, the temporary security credentials which is being assigned as a part of role. Okay, so what we can do, we'll try to retrieve those security credentials from instance metadata. Okay, oh, some typo here. Okay, this is my role name. I'll append this role name. Now here you can see we are getting this access key ID, secret access key, and this token. Okay, which we can basically use to access the AWS resource. Okay, what I'll do first of all, I'll go to my local terminal to see if I can access this AWS IAM list user command from the local terminal where we do not have any access token already present. Okay. Okay, so I am here. What I'll do, I'll use this command AWS IAM list users. As I can see, there is nothing being configured because it is not having any token of AWS to connect to the AWS resources. That's why it is giving us this error. Okay, now what we will do, we have those secret access, secret key from that EC2 instance metadata which we just saw. What we'll do, we will just copy those instance details and we'll export those details to here in my local terminal, and then I will try to do this activity again. Okay, let's go to this terminal, go to this EC2 Connect to copy the data. I'll copy this, uh, paste it into one text editor. Okay, what I need is access ID. What I need is a secret access key, and what I need is this access token. Okay, so I'll export this everything. Now I will clear this screen and we'll run this command. Okay, now you can see I am able to access this particular resources because I provided the access key, the token, whatever thing which is required to authenticate and to access the AWS resources. Okay, so in this manner, we can basically retrieve the secret credentials which are being stored into EC2. Okay, now I'll give you an example of the one cyber attack which happened to one of this Capital One organization. Okay, so as you see, like pro- metadata already contains those security credentials and all. Okay, so what the hacker did, first of all, I'll give you a brief overview like what happened with this Capital One cyber attack. Okay, you can read about more in detail over on the YouTube or on over the different blogs because this is very much explained there. Okay, I'll just give you a brief like what actually happened. So what hacker did, first of all, hacker did basically use a VPN service to hide their identity. Okay, then they basically exploit that EC2 because EC2 was having that full access IAM role. Okay, so as we can see, we assigned one IAM role also to our EC2 instance as well. Okay, but this was like poorly configured EC2 instance, and they provided like a full access IAM role, and then they exploited this vulnerability. This by using this SSRF query, they exploited this particular EC2 instance and were able to replay that. They were able to connect to that EC2 instance, and after that they were able to retrieve data of this EC2 metadata service. Okay, and as we know, this metadata service has a static URL, this 169.254, and from the security credentials they were able to access this this key ID, secret access key, and all. Okay, and by using those access credentials, they were able to basically list all the S3 buckets which was there, and there was like a 30 GB of Capital One credit application data. There was a data of customers, around 30 GB data of customers was basically present in those S3 buckets. And what attacker was able to do, that attacker was able to connect to that particular buckets, and they copied all the data and basically exposed that data. Okay, so this was a Capital One attack, this which I just showed you in the previous like how easily you can access this EC2 instance. And once we are able to access this EC2 instance, we can basically get this secret keys. Okay, you can read about it more over the net. I'll provide you some good resources to read it also. Next is your clean up your EC2 instance. So as we know, we are using this AWS pay as you use model. Okay, so whatever we are using, we have to pay for it. So once you are done with your any activity, your work is completed, then remember to stop and terminate your EC2 instances to stop your billing. Okay, and to know the step-by-step guide, like how you can do and what all activities you need to do, you can visit the AWS official step-by-step guide also. I'll provide the link of that in the description below. First of all, let me show you how we can stop or terminate a EC2 instance. I'll go to this particular EC2 instance. Here you can see the EC2 instance is in running state. I'll just click on terminate, and now it will do what it will do. It will just go to this intermediate state of shutting down, and after that it will go to this terminated. Okay, one thing to note here is that your terminated instance will be here in this direct this page for some time. After that, AWS automatically removes it. Okay, once it is shutting down or it is in terminated state, you can see this connect button will be disabled because you will not be able to connect to that instance now. Okay, just refresh to see if it is done. It is still shutting down. Okay, now you can see it is terminated. Okay, after terminated, you will not have any public IP address and all and everything. Okay, you can check. Now go to this dashboard to see what all things are basically present. You can see instances running 0, your instances is 0 because no instances is present for your case. Okay, so in this manner, after you are done with your activity, you can just clean up your instances so that it will not cost you billing. Next is your EC2 instance purchasing option. So if you remember in the previous video, we saw there are different EC2 instance type. Like there are different type on the basis of your requirement, whether you need general purpose EC2 instance, or you need computation purpose, or you need storage purpose. So once you select any particular type of EC2 instance, there are different purchasing options also which are provided to you, with accordingly which you can either book or reserved, or you can pay for that. Okay, so let's see, like the first one is your on demand instance. Okay, so here what you'll do, you are just demanding whatever EC2 instance you need as per your requirement, and you will pay it by the hour. So okay, so whenever you need it, at you will just have to use it. Second one is your reserved instances. So reserved instances is just like a normal reservation. You do a reservation for either 1 year or 3 year, and since you are doing a reservation upfront, that's why you get a huge discount when you are using these reserve instances. Okay, and since you are doing reservation in advance, that's why instances are always available to you. Okay, same is the case with schedule instances. Okay, schedule instances are also purchased for a 1 year return, 1 year for a recurring period of time. Okay, so what's the difference here is, like a reserved instance is like reserved for specific period of time, but for scheduled instances you are using it for recurring period of time. Let's suppose for within a year you want to use this for 3 months continuously. Every year. Okay, so that's like a recurring period, and then you can schedule it as per your requirement. Fourth type is your spot instances. So spot instance is just like a walk-in, and whenever there will be any spot instance available, whosoever will be the highest bidder, they will basically get those particular spot instances. Okay, these are not reliable because if anybody bids for some higher bid, then those spot instances will be assigned to them. Okay, so these are generally do for those activities which does not matter much and can be generally used for batch operators and all, which needs to be done in bulk. Okay, last one is your dedicated host. So this is like you're doing a booking of full host. Okay, physical host is fully dedicated to run your instances. Okay, you will have a full control over the infrastructure which it is which you are using. Okay, so these are different types. If I'll give an analogy with a journal life, okay, to understand it better. So your on demand instances is just like you went to a hotel and you just asked if there is seat available or not, and since if the seat will be available, then you will basically book it. Okay, but prices are generally higher for on demand seats because you do not have any prior reservation. So hotel charges you whatever they want. Okay, second one is the reserve instances. You know well in advance, like you want to live in that particular property for that much time. So you will book in advance. You will book in reserve, so that that particular property, particular room, particular hotel, particular apartment, whatsoever you want, will be reserved for you. Okay, and since you are doing the reservation in advance, generally you get some discount also for that. Okay, third one is your schedule instance. So if suppose you are a business travel and go to a particular business site on site frequently, regularly, okay, and since let's suppose over a year you go one time each month, okay, so you just book a room there for recurring stay. Okay, so for a year you just book your recurring stay there, so that is like a scheduled instances. Okay, the fourth one in your spot instances. So again, if there is any seat available, so hotel what hotel people can do, they can basically bid for that seat, and whosoever will give the highest price, they will allocate that room to that particular person. But if any other person came forward and just provided the more prices to that previous bidder, then that room will be allocated to the next bidder who provided the more price. Okay, so that is a spot instance. And the last one is your dedicated host. So let's suppose if you book the whole hotel or the whole area for you for any event or something like that, so it that particular hotel will be dedicated to you only, will be reserved only for you. So that is like an example of dedicated host. Okay, so by this manner you can basically choose what type of instance you need as per your requirement. Okay, next is your EC2 shared responsibility model. So as we already know, like AWS is having a shared responsibility model where the responsibility is being shared by both users who is using AWS resources as well as AWS. Okay, but in terms of EC2, what AWS responsibility is basically to maintain all the servers and instances, so that there will be no lag or something like that. There will be no downtime and something, and also to provide infrastructure resources, etc., so that whenever user needs for that resources, those instances, they will be provided without any delay. Okay, similarly there are some responsibility which an user has to do, like they have to maintain those firewalls rules, security groups, so that there will be proper security check in place, so that there will not be any malicious use of those particular resources. Also they have to maintain the security and credentials. They do not have to store that in EC2. They have to safely and securely store those resources somewhere so that it will not be exploited. And also if they do not want, if you do not want to bill for the resources which you are not using, so it's a user responsibility basically to terminate the instances when not in use. Okay, so these are different responsibility shared both by AWS as well as customer. Okay, so yeah, this is all in today's video. In the next few videos we'll see more about AWS storage and S3 and all. I'll tell you there. Okay, so please do like the video, share this video with your friends and colleagues. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel Ethical Cruise, and also you can visit my blogging website ethicalcruise.com, where you can read about the security basics, footprinting, reconnaissance, AWS, this cloud computing and all. Okay, so I will see you all in the next video. Continue with this cloud computing series. Till then, thank you. Bye bye.